everybody, and thank you for joining us again for another session of Nurturing Success. Today, I'm happy and excited to have with us Madison Gilmartin. Madison is an insurance professional, but I'll let her tell you more about her business and so forth. But anyway, so welcome and thanks for being here, Madison.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So I always like to kind of start off with where things are, where you kind of in life and so forth. I know you've been going through, a lot of things recently, just on a personal level. We don't have to get into all that, but tell me, what's something you're grateful for today? What's happening that you're grateful for?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be grateful for in life, right? Finishing up a new year is always something, or I guess last year is something to be grateful for, and entering a new year. It was my first full year or almost full year in business with Goosehead. So just to see myself grow throughout the year was something that, was really, I'm grateful for. I'm very grateful to be healthy. My family is all healthy and we're doing good. We're able to travel and all those things. So looking forward to a very successful 2026 and just grateful that I have the opportunity to serve the clients and do what I love.
I hear you. Well, that's great. Well said. And I appreciate it, and a great way to start the year. So thank you. So you mentioned your company name, Goosehead Insurance. So I'll have you tell our listeners a little bit more about what Goosehead does. But I know it's a family business. So why don't you kind of walk me through how you ended up there and what your company does and what you do?
Sure. So Goosehead is a franchise. So their corporation is based out of Dallas, Texas. My dad was previously with another insurance company. He's been in insurance for over 40 years. My grandpa was also with another insurance company for probably close to 40 years as well. So It's been in my blood, and I had no choice but to enter the insurance world at some point. So little backstory about me. I spent 7 years in medical device sales. Yep. So I was in the operating room. I was in the dental side of things. And then my dad's business just kind of took off and he was ready to hire me. And I was like, I don't think there's a better time to do it. So got married, kind of settled down. Medical sales was great while I was in it, but I knew that I wanted to kind of take a step back from the craziness of being on call and all the things. So insurance was kind of, always in the books, and it was just a matter of when. So now here I am a year in, and it's been really good to me, and I'm super grateful.
That's so cool. Well, I love that. And obviously if you were in the medical device sales, you were dealing with people every day, and that can be a very high pressure business as well.
Absolutely.
Were there any sort of lessons you took from that you're applying to your insurance practice now that you can think of?
I think just people skills. I think you're dealing with people, especially in medical sales, like you said, at the highest stress levels in the operating rooms when there's a human life on the table. And I don't think it gets much more stressful than that. So I feel like just learning to kind of talk people off the edge sometimes. Insurance, it can be stressful, it can be confusing, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. So I think just having a calm demeanor and just kind of really making people understand things and being more of an educator rather than just a salesperson was something that I took with me from the operating room into insurance as well.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I mean, even though I think people have high levels of anxiety and stress around sort of their insurance and those kind of things, especially with all the changes going on, which we'll talk about here shortly. It's not like no one's going to die, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is what I tell people all the time. I go, we're talking about mortgages and finance. We're talking about payments and cash flow. Those things are all important, but at the end of the day, no one's going to die.
Yes.
And if we close a day or two late, I'm sorry. I know that's unfortunate, but no one's going to die.
100%. In the grand scheme of things, it all works out.
Absolutely. All right. So, the insurance, and you're focused primarily in your practice on what we call, property and casualty, right? So I know you may do other things which you can talk about, but when I talk about property and casualty, I'm talking about people's home insurance. We're talking about cars. We're talking about protecting sort of those things that are important to them. It may include life insurance and some other things, but that's the primary focus. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's correct. Primarily home and auto.
Got it. Great. So there's been a lot of turbulence in the last year, especially here in California, where you both are and both work, around kind of home insurance and so forth. I mean, what are you hearing? What are some things that you've learned through this period? And I won't make you guess what's going to happen in the future, but maybe give us some insight that may help some people out there.
Yeah, so obviously it's no secret that the insurance market has had its difficulties. I entered as soon as the Altadena fires and
Yeah.
Palisades fires happened, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, if I can get through this, I can
Yeah.
get through anything." And with that being said, the first quarter of last year was tough. We were seeing a lot of carriers denying, it was California Fair Plan left and right, and not something that I always want to offer my clients at first. But when
Sure.
there's no other options, it's better to have some insurance than no insurance. But with that being said, we are seeing a little bit of a shift in the market. We are seeing more and more non admitted carriers in the market. What these non admitted carriers are means that they don't have to come in and follow the same rules and regulations that the insurance companies in California have to. So they have a little bit more flexibility with writing in high risk areas. And they're coming in and they're kind of saturating the market, which is really good
Mhm.
for us because it's allowing us to offer different types of coverage through different carriers so that they aren't having to go through the California Fair Plan. So specifically in areas like Pasadena, the Palisades, we are seeing more and more carriers enter that market space and offer coverage um, for a fairly decent price. I mean, obviously the size of the home and things like of that nature, they matter, but it's still a better option than what was previously being offered to them.
Interesting. So, and I've heard this term non-admitted carrier, and you sort of described it in, just kind of briefly. But what might that mean? So if they're not required, so what is it they're not required to do in California, and what allows them to do business in California if they're non-admitted? Whatever, so maybe just unpack that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Yeah, so they're not backed by the California State Guarantee Fund. So if they were
Uh,
to go insolvent, California is not going to back them up on any claims that are arise at that time. However, with that being said, we are pretty picky about who we choose with those non-admitted carriers because there is a risk associated to that. But we work with all A-rated carriers and carriers that we have full faith in. And if we feel like these carriers are doing shady business at any time, then we will go the opposite direction and find different coverage for our clients. But non-admitted just basically means they don't have to follow these rules and regulations. An admitted carrier are the big carriers that you think of. You see them on TV,
yeah.
but unfortunately, a lot of them either aren't writing business in California right now or they're just not renewing their clients, which is also causing a lot of panic among the community.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we're here. We're having lots of our clients are getting non-renewed and sort of having to make some decisions and so forth. Out there as well. It leads me to a kind of an interesting. So they don't have the backing of the guarantee of California, which I'm not sure what the, the backing of California might mean anyway. But anyway, putting that aside, I think people might have the same concern about the fair plan, right? So at the end of the day, if the fair plan is always been there as a backup, for people that were sort of in high fire risk areas, or maybe just couldn't fit into the box, as it were, right? And so it's always been there. And even I've had fair plan at one point in the past on a home that was up on a hillside. Um, now now that fair plan's been taking on a lot of new business and is the backstop for a lot of people, and I've been hearing people saying, well, they could go bankrupt, and what's if they have so much coverage, if there's another massive wildfire or other large catastrophic event, they're not going to be able to cover the people that they're now insuring. Do you have any insight into that? Because I honestly don't know. I'm just kind of curious what an expert might think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern that we are seeing, and that's kind of the problem as to why these other insurance companies aren't writing in the state because of the California Fair Plan and the issues that we saw with the Palisades and Altadena fires. I don't have a ton of insight on it to be completely transparent with you,
Yeah.
but it is obviously a big concern that, at some point they're not going to have enough money to pay out these claims and they're going to have to reinsure themselves and go to someone else to find this money.
Yeah, that's interesting. This may be very boring for people, but since you use the word reinsurance, it's probably not something a lot of consumers think about. Um, and so why don't you tell us what reinsurance is? I mean, I know what it is, but why don't you describe what it is? So if a client says, "Hey, I'm getting my insurance through XYZ," why is it important that that carrier has reinsurance on the backside of them? Why is that critical?
Yeah, so that's important in case a carrier goes bankrupt. They want to have reinsurance or they don't have enough money to pay out a claim, then that other carrier can kick in and kind of, I guess, start to pay for whatever they can't afford. So you always want to have that reinsurance to make sure that you're covered.
Yeah, I guess I've always thought of it as you're sort of just spreading the risk amongst more market participants. And so if you have $100 million worth of potential claims, and you've laid off some of that risk with other reinsurance companies, which we as consumers never see. Like, we don't even know who those people are, right? And what they're doing is they're basically insuring the insurer, saying that if they can't cover it, we're here in the back, back over here somewhere, and we'll hopefully pick up that difference. And there's lots of those companies.
Yep.
And so it's just a method of sort of spreading the risk amongst more participants. I mean, ideally, we don't have a massive event like we have these massive events, but when they do happen, that helps cover some of the downside risks to insurers, which hopefully keeps insurance rates down kind of over time.
Yes.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Exactly. No, you described it perfectly.
So cool. So tell me about a little bit more about sort of your team. Now, you work with your dad. Well, first off, what's it like working with your dad? I mean, what's that been like?
It's been good. I mean, at first I was like, oh man, a family business, that'll be interesting. And my dad and I are a lot alike. So it was
Yeah.
a little bit of a concern, but we're really good business partners and it's been great. I think it's made us closer. We probably drive my mom crazy because we're always talking shop, but it's all right. It's part of it. We're like, finally getting my brother who's in high school. We're like, hey, one day this could be you. So just keep
I know,
adding on
right?
to the family.
Are you the oldest in your family?
I am. It's myself and then my brother who's a freshman in high school.
Cute.
So big age
Um,
gap.
that's awesome. As you know, my middle son works with me, which has been a great relationship. I can't speak for him. He may say something different, but from my perspective, it's been great. So I get that, and it is a challenge. Is there any so for the folks that tend to kind of listen into this and so forth tend to be smaller financial professionals, right? They're either running their own practice or they got a small team, and they tend to be a little bit more independent. And oftentimes family does get involved. Do you have any words of advice for someone maybe thinking, should I bring a sibling or another family member or a child kind of into their business? What are some things that you think they should watch out for or consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a good relationship to start, I think it's a great way to, enhance the family business. I think that as long as you trust the person, the best person you can hire is family because they're, I mean, the right family member, right? They're looking out for your best interest. They want to see the business thrive. So I always say, like, give the family member a shot. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But hey, it's worth trying.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. There's challenges. I think if you have clear expectations, just like you would with any you add into your team and you're hiring somebody, right? So you have a really clear job description and expectations, and you go back and you review those things on a regular basis and say, okay, are we achieving what we thought we'd achieve and so forth? Because at the end of the day, it is a business, right? And you need to make money and you need to be fairly compensated for your time. I do think a lot of times people consider hiring family because they think it's going to be maybe less expensive than hiring somebody else in the open marketplace, if that makes sense. And that might be true. But they're also investing in your business, right? And they have a vested interest in seeing it succeed. So I think there's both sides of that conversation. So cool. Well, thank you. So how about the rest of your team? Who else works with you?
Yeah, so we have two other producers that work in the agency, and then we are hiring another kind of in the process. And then we also have a huge service team out in Texas that works behind us and works with all the other franchises that are within Goosehead. So they kind of help us expedite things. If we need any changes made to policies, they're our first go-to. So it kind of frees up our work from, helping the initial onboarding of the clients. So our service team does all the back end stuff, and then we can do the front end stuff and be more hands-on with clients.
Yeah, I love that. And I will share that, Madison and I have worked together. I'm a client of your company now, so I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate the experience. It was great. So tell me, what is the process that someone would expect to kind of go through when they're working with you and the rest of your team? Kind of, how's it laid out, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so it just depends on how I usually get the lead. So, depending if I get the lead from a lender or a realtor, or if the client comes to me themselves, I usually, ideally, would like to hop on the phone with a client at first, kind of get to know them, I want to be a resource. I don't want to just be another salesperson because there's plenty of those to go around, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure that the client feels comfortable with me first. So we usually will set up a discovery call. That discovery call, I'm going to ask you all the questions about your home, any risks, anything that, you need to tell me, like liability wise. Do you have a pool? Do you have animals? Do you have kids? Those are all things that are really important to me because I want to make sure that I build a portfolio out for a client that is appropriate and is going to cover all of their assets. So after that discovery call, I kind of set an expectation with the client that I will have a quote back to them within the same day, and that we can hop back on a phone call that same day if they have time and review the entire quote. So I will walk the client line item by line item. That's one big thing I really do believe in, especially with new home buyers, just because everything is new. It's so overwhelming. But also the ones that haven't reviewed their policy in a long time and maybe they're refinancing or they just want to take a deeper look. I do think it's important to know what you're paying for and what's covered, what's not covered. So after that discovery call, if everything looks good, they're ready to move forward. I get in touch with the lender, set everything up, and then get the evidence of insurance back to the lender and close. And then from there, the client always has my number, my email, and then I give them the service team if they can't ever reach me, so that there's always someone there that they can reach out to.
Well, thank you. And as I said, we've had a chance to work together, and you laid out a pretty complete process, and it works great. I mean, and it's a lot of hands-on, and I know that people really appreciate that. So when we're thinking about growing your business, right? So you're pretty early on in sort of your individual work. Obviously, you work with your dad and you're helping support him, but you're also trying to build your own book, as it were. Are there some unique things you're thinking? You mentioned lenders and realtors. I'm assuming you're also talking to other professionals and so forth. So is there anything unique in your practice? And it doesn't have to be just about insurance, but how are you connecting with more people? What are some fun things or unique things you're doing to find more people to do business with?
Yeah, so I am a big cold caller. That's how I found John's office. I will walk into offices and introduce myself, and
Yeah.
I've found it to be very successful.
Yep.
So a lot of people aren't out there anymore, going into offices and introducing themselves. So I'm used to that from my previous job, so it just feels very normal to do. A lot of people probably are like, "What are you doing?" But it works. And then also just going to like realtor meetings and things of that nature to just continue to try and network and meet new people. Googling people and seeing
Yeah.
what we have in common is a big thing. I've noticed a lot of businesses that are family run, and that's an immediate connection for me. My husband's law enforcement, so a lot of
Right.
ex law enforcement I work with. So just trying to be creative of who I'm targeting, and also being selective on who I want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. So, yeah, I would say that because, yeah, we did originally connect. You walked into our office. I wasn't there, but you talked to someone on our team.
Yep.
And so that is unique, right? So, because no one does it anymore. At least I don't think, I shouldn't say no one because you did it, but very few people do that anymore. And so I do think it's a unique way of doing it. And I think it's coming back. I actually think that, now that COVID's in pretty much in the rear mirror, and I think people have kind of gotten zoomed out, and sort of a lot of the virtual stuff is sort of, I just think people are kind of done with it, right? And so it does feel like making a human connection is going to work really well going forward. And back it up obviously with digital tools, which you have, because I've experienced those. So thank you. So yeah, that's a great takeaway for those of you listening. Go out and start knocking on doors, right? It works, and it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I'm going to throw you a quick curveball here. So I like to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, or additional intelligence, as I call it. Are you using, and it doesn't have to be in your business, on a personal level or business level, have you been thinking about AI? Is it incorporated into your personal life or work life, or what are you doing with AI, if anything?
Oh, I love AI. It's everything. I think it's a matter of you can't abuse AI because it's very easy to pick up on if you
Yeah.
are abusing it. But I think that if you use the right tools in business and in your personal life to help formulate ideas and, help formulate even just emails sometimes of just, hey, can you help me reword this to sound a little bit more clear and concise? Or just, you have a long email and people don't always want to read a long email. So sometimes
Yeah.
it's just breaking it down into something smaller. But
Mhm.
I do think that AI is the future. And I think it's a matter of just like how are we going to adapt to it and not how we let it adapt to us, because we can really easily let AI take over everything. And we don't want that. We want it to be a tool.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think there's a lot of applications. I think we're still really early on in figuring out where it's going to work, because you and I work in sort of small businesses, as it were, we're boots on the ground kind of folks. We don't have the sort of this enterprise viewpoint, behind us saying, okay, use this tool to do this. And we're going to work this in our workflow, right? It's up to us to kind of figure out how we can adapt it to create more efficiency and some uniqueness and creativity. And I think it can be very creative. I've really embraced it in a lot of different things. Is there any particular tool that you want to mention? You don't have to. I'm just kind of curious. Is there something that you like that you think is somewhat different?
I'm still early on in it.
Yeah.
I like ChatGPT. I just use it for a lot of things. I mean, even just asking it questions of things that I maybe can't find on Google, or just to give me a more thorough answer.
Yeah.
Or just to, like I said, to tune up emails here and there. I do like it, but I'd say ChatGPT is my go-to.
Got it. Yeah, and that's great. And they're all different LLMs you can use and so forth. So thank you. I'm not sure if this question is going to work, kind of how we work together. But as you know, we sort of focus on liability management, right? So our business is about, we only get paid to do mortgages, but at the end of the day, we're helping people manage liabilities, manage cash flow, manage debt. And how do you view that, just on a personal level? How do you kind of view the idea of liabilities and even managing it, right, is somewhat of a different concept. So, and any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the insurance world, you can kind of look at it as like asset management and using the liability side of things to manage your assets. So, like I said, when I'm talking to a client, I really want to find out everything about that client. So, things of kids, do they have rental properties? What are their exposures? And I want to make sure that I'm protecting my clients and any liabilities that they might have. So, talking to them about umbrella policies and maxing out all liability coverages to make sure that they're completely covered, because at the end of the day, a liability claim is not something that you want to have to deal with, and you're
Yeah.
better covered than not. So I would say that's the biggest way that I'm, mitigating those risks and
Sure.
making sure that clients are covered.
Love it. And I think it points out that all of this stuff works together, right? I'm constantly talking to clients and prospects and partners about sort of the idea that you need to have a team around you, right? So if you're making a decision in a silo, for example, about insurance, and that isn't integrated into sort of the mortgage conversation or the real estate conversation, it all becomes potentially risky, right? So you create risk where you don't realize there may be some kind of risk. And because we're in the cash flow business, consumers live lives of cash flow. And if we can help them improve cash flow through better, management of insurance, right? So fine, just to say for argument's sake, we can save $200 a month through a better structure of insurance across a few properties. That's $200 a month that goes into their assets now, like you said, now that's in their assets. Now it helps grow assets and creates more protection. So love it. I love the way you're thinking about it. So that's great. Well, good. Well, we're just about to wrap up here. And I want to thank you very much for your time. We'll get all your contact information into all the notes so people can reach out to you anytime and so forth. But I want to leave you sort of with the last word, as it were. And so I always like to have our guests sort of maybe to share something, a word of encouragement or something that's on your mind that you think will make the world kind of a better place. So kind of what's happening that you don't mind sharing with everyone else.
I think in today's world, like, we all just need to be kind and patient to each other. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I think kindness goes a long way, and so does patience. And I think that if we can all integrate that, not just into our daily personal lives, but also into our business lives, it's very easy to get frustrated about things in business and take it out on people that, it really shouldn't be taken out on. But like I said, kindness is everything, and kindness goes a long way, and it's noticed.
Well, thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. So kindness and patience is our words for 2026. So thank you, Madison. I appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John.
All right. You're welcome.